We have spent the entire offseason analyzing the film and breaking down the stats for the incoming rookie class. And it all culminates in today's episode where we bring you our top 50 rookie Superflex rankings for your rookie drafts coming up after the NFL draft. And to name it on the front end, these are our rankings before the draft. We will do a rookie draft after the NFL draft with landing spots. So today we are bringing you our top 50 rookies that you should be considering in your rookie drafts without their landing spots. So fellas, we'll be putting all of these players into tiers. We're going to start at the top, work our way down with the S tier. And Ashton Jeanty is the only player based on our consensus rankings that we have in this tier. And the question I think I want to ask you two, I do have Cam Ward as my second overall player behind Ashton Jeanty in rookie drafts this year, but was there any consideration for either of you two that Cam Ward should actually be in this S tier?
I really don't think so. Unfortunately, just landing spot, being Tennessee, he's got to be unbelievably special. I think he can be a pretty decent NFL quarterback, but to be where we think Jeanty is going to be, we're talking about probably having to average 19, 20 fantasy points a game pretty quickly, and I just don't see Cam Ward being that guy.
I will clarify real quick if you didn't get it based on Lucas's question. We're doing this in Superflex. That's exactly the only reason why we're considering Cam Ward in the S tier. And if this was a single QB discussion, Cam Ward would most definitely not even be close to this S tier. But because it's Superflex, we have to talk about it. My question really for Cam Ward is that can he be like a top 7, top 8 fantasy quarterback? I struggle to see that happening, especially when we've got the likes of Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts as well, guys that can give you that elite rushing upside. I don't think Cam Ward can do that. He is a gunslinger. He can throw the ball all over the yard. But when you look at fantasy football and where points come from and how points are produced, I don't think Cam Ward can give you that same kind of production.
So I won't ask where Cam Ward falls in. I don't want to skip over Ashton Jeanty. Well, that's false. I kind of do. Because if you want to hear us just gush about how much we love Ashton Jeanty, we posted a video with rookie running back comps on our page. That was already like a month and a half ago. So you can go check that video out if you want to hear all of our Ashton Jeanty thoughts. And obviously, Ashton Jeanty is pretty much the undisputed 101. We don't need to overcomplicate this any more than it needs to be. So Cam Ward, he's actually the second player in our A tier. You have Tedder McMillan, Cam Ward, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Tyler Warren, Quinshawn Judkins, and Travis Hunter. Is Cam Ward the 102 or is he the 103 for you? For both of you. Sorry. Because I already said he's second in my rankings. For me, I think he does edge out Tet McMillan, but I'm not going to call anybody stupid for having Tet 103 or 102 instead. That's where I was ultimately, but then I'm like, I think the quarterback value does come into play there ahead of Tet for me.
He probably should be the 102. I am of the thought, at least for this draft with the 102, 103, that I think they're close enough that you can go position dependent.
Yes.
If you need a quarterback, take Cam Ward. If you don't, go Tet. I think they're close enough. Usually, I would say take the better player at this early in the draft, but I see them pretty interchangeable at the 102, 103.
I like the positional need perspective, but go ahead, Ty. I just wanted to reiterate that I think that's probably more realistically where I land. If you need the quarterback, take Cam Ward. If you actually have a desperate need at wide receiver and you're sitting okay at quarterback, then go Tet. But do you land there as well, Ty?
Yeah, I think I lean that way, but I think the question you can also ask yourself then is what is the upside with Tet McMillan? Do you think that he can be top 15, top 10? If you do, then you probably lean Tet McMillan. But if you don't think he has that upside, if you think that he's really just going to be a solid player, he doesn't have elite upside, he doesn't have that much upside in that sense, I think you would go Cam Ward. But again, I agree also position. If you need the quarterback, take the quarterback.
And it'll be that one may or may not be landing spot dependent too. Because if he goes to Dallas, that could be a fun little Tet McMillan landing spot where it becomes very enticing at the 102. Carolina, that one might be more of a split of it's Bryce Young. It's the number one target for Bryce Young, or it's the Carolina Panthers, right? You could argue that one way or the other. That one might be a little bit more landing spot dependent, but we're not going to get into too many landing spots. And what we're also going to do today, I want to make sure that people know this. We're not going to talk about every player in each tier. because we've already spent a lot of time talking about the likes of Amari Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. Tyler Warren is a guy we haven't spent a lot of time talking about, though. And it seems pretty clear that he is like a first-round lock in all rookie drafts. He's a top 15 lock, it seems like, in the NFL draft this upcoming year. How early would each of you take Tyler Warren in rookie drafts? And before you answer that question, let me provide context around where Brock Bowers was taken in rookie drafts last year. The average order in Superflex leagues last year when Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Drake May, Rome Odunze, and then Brock Bowers at the 107. So where would you take Tyler Warren this year?
I've been fighting on it a little bit. Do I go as high as 106? So I'm gonna let Ty answer this because his answer is gonna be more ridiculous than mine ever could dream of because he's in love with Tyler Warren. So I will just give this to you, Ty.
I mean, besides the fact that he shares like the best first name on the planet,
whatever. You two can crush about that later. Whatever.
I would take him as early as the 105 because I like Omarion. I believe in Omarion. I'm not going to take Tyler Warren over Cam Ward. I think again, the point that you were bringing up with how Superflex drafts went last year is just kind of comparing the classes and stuff like that. You will hear draft analysts say like you shouldn't do that when you're talking about the NFL draft. I try not to do that myself when it comes to fantasy, but at the same time, like it does have some merit to it because I think that Tyler Warren is just that good of a prospect, that good of a player that I would consider taking him ahead of Travion Henderson because I have my concerns about Travion Henderson's usage and the landing spot will be a big factor in that as well. So I would say the 105.
Well, and the other thing to consider with last year's draft too, and people are probably like, well, Lucas, look, you literally rattled off 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers before you got to Brock, and 2 of which are like phenomenal. And like people are hindsight 2020, Brian Thomas Jr. should have been pick 7 and not pick 8 ahead of, well, maybe not. Maybe you're pleased about that. Maybe you flip around Rome Odunze and Brian Thomas Jr., what have you. But I think there's something to be said too about how last year's class was far more top heavy than this year's class versus this year's class is significantly deeper than last year. So it might make sense that Tyler Warren actually slips into, a top 5, 6, 7 pick just because the top end of this class isn't as heavy as it was last year. Do you have any opinion to that shape on where you would take Tyler Warren, Cam? I think for me, how it shows up on our YouTube screen of Tet McMillan, Cam Ward, Amari Hampton, Travion Henderson. And then I think that's where I'm starting to consider Tyler Warren. But you could easily put Quinshon Judkins or Travis Hunter ahead of him for me when it's all said and done and we actually know the landing spots.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. If Travis Hunter comes out, we're committed to a full-time wide receiver, then I think he slides up. I honestly might take him ahead of Tyler Warren as of right now. But I would agree with you, Lucas, if that's kind of where I'm at. I like Travion Henderson a little bit more. I think the pass blocking he showed is going to be good enough that he's going to have a very, at least a very specific role, hopefully more expanded in the NFL.
Now, it's going to be fun to see where Tyler Warren lands on draft night. And if you do want to see where he ends up going in the first round, come join our watch party. We are hosting a watch party on draft night starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. You can come join us as we react to every pick in the first round. So make sure you're following, hit that subscribe button as well. Turn on that notification bell so you know when we go live, so you know when all of our newest content is up. And we just hit earlier this week 3,000 subscribers, which was our goal before the NFL draft. So thank you all. We will be announcing a winner. I believe it'll be in the comment section of this video. Who's going to get $100 of my own money? We'll send you a Visa gift card with $100 of my own money. And I think we'll do a fun little giveaway at 5K subscribers too. I think that'll be fun if we again set these subscriber milestones. We promise a little giveaway there. We want to thank you all, get back to you all for your support. So again, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well. We'll be live for the first round of the NFL draft. Come join us for our watch party. Travis Hunter is the other name I want to touch on. We've talked about him as a prospect already. Again, we did wide receiver comps as well. You can go watch that video on our profile once you're done here. But the question I think we do need to ask about Travis Hunter is he sits at the end of this A tier, and I think it's only because we still don't know whether he's going to play predominantly wide receiver or cornerback in the NFL. Let's say he does play 80, because this is fantasy football. We need to look at it from the fantasy perspective. If Travis Hunter does play 80% wide receiver and 20% DB in the NFL, how does that change where he goes in rookie drafts for both of you? Because for me, I think it's a legitimate question if he should be after Cam Ward. Like, I think he becomes in that Cam Ward, Amari, and Hampton range for me.
Yeah, I mean, he is my wide receiver 1 if he was a full-time wide receiver.
In the class, yes.
In the class. So that's where I would have him. Obviously, if we're going to expect 80%, then I would agree. I think he's probably right behind Cam Ward. I have him at 5 in my personal rankings because I do think that's where he's going to be. I think that no team is going to take him top 5 if they're not planning to play him both sides of the ball. And I think if one position has to win out, I don't want to say he's going to just follow the money, but if I was Travis Hunter, I might look at those wide receiver contracts and go, potentially making $40 million a year looks pretty nice, and I think wide receiver wins out in the end. I do think he's pretty set on, I'm going to give both sides, the ball a shot. I don't want to go to a team that's not going to let me do that. And so, maybe it's a little bit slower at first, but just the talent that is Travis Hunter, if we know it's 80-20, then yeah, I got him probably even with Cam Ward.
What about for you, Ty? Where does he then land for you?
Yeah, on an 80-20 split, I would probably put him right between Cam Ward and Omari and Hampton.
Sure.
We've talked about the player enough. The dude is absolutely electric. So even when he's on the field 80% of the time compared to everyone else, we've seen wide receivers have success in fantasy football playing less amount of time than 80% of the time. So yeah, Travis Hunter would instantly jump up into like that top 5. And there's then a serious conversation, in my opinion, then for top 3 even.
Yeah, well, right. And I think there's a series. People might say like really behind Cam Ward still. Like he might even be ahead of Ted McMillan, which I like, again, to each their own. I don't think I would entirely disagree with that if that's where you landed on Travis Hunter either. So that I just want to make sure we talked about that, flush that out of like, he's not at the end of our A tier because like, that's where we think he actually belongs. It's more of, we just don't know the splits. And so we're being conservative in our ranking. Once we do know the potential splits, obviously that shoots Travis Hunter up much closer to the top of the draft board with how talented he is, how natural of a feel he has for the wide receiver position. Let's keep it moving. We'll talk about the B tier because we got a lot of tiers to come through here, fellas. Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden III, Shedeur Sanders, Colston Loveland, and Caleb Johnson make up the B tier for us. And when I was going through and figuring out which players we were going to talk about from each tier, there were really 2 that stood out like sore thumbs for me in this tier. Because I think a lot of people would say Shedeur Sanders should be in the A tier. And I think we can quietly make a case for Colston Loveland to be more closely ranked to Tyler Warren. So let's start with Shedeur Sanders. In our personal rankings, I have Shedeur Sanders up at my 9th overall player because, again, in Superflex, I'm going to put priority on the quarterback. I do think Shedeur Sanders has a very good chance of being the second quarterback taken in this draft, unless if New Orleans decides to get crazy on us. You both have Shedeur Sanders 12th overall, so tail end of the first round. Should Shedeur actually be closer to the back end of the A tier than the middle of the B tier?
So my issue with Sanders is, do you know how many rushing yards he had in college?
Oh, it's not good.
The answer is less than 0. He had negative 127 rushing yards in college. So we talked about that with
because they
Cam
count
Ward.
sacks.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But the fact that you had negative, right? At the end of the day, he's not hitting 300 rushing yards. He's not hitting 500 rushing yards, right? He's back. And I agree. That is the dumbest thing that counts sacks. It drives me nuts on my road to glory career that I take 9 sacks a game, but I'm an elusive quarterback and I still only end up with 6 rushing yards. So it's just ridiculous. But I digress. I just don't think
just get good at the game.
I just don't think that he is a good enough passer that we're going to see him take that jump up of, like, for me, his ceiling is Tua, that he finds the right spot. and that he can be just kind of in the pocket and hopefully has good weapons around him. And that's his fantasy ceiling is Tua.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's why I drop him, because I don't think he's going to necessarily be in a great situation for Tua where the offense is running around him perfectly. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't see the upside that would warrant me putting him in the A tier.
So what's your justification then for Shedeur at 12 tie?
Probably the landing spot. I know that we tried to say like we wouldn't rank this based on the landing spot, but you look at the teams that need a quarterback.
It's fair.
There is just no good situation for Shedeur Sanders to go into to be a fantasy, producer for you. Like, you can make an argument that the best one may be Pittsburgh, and I am not confident in Arthur Smith putting Shedeur Sanders, in the best situation to produce then for fantasy. Because then you're also looking at Cleveland, you're looking at the Giants, you're looking, Saints, looking at, that's really about it. Like,
yeah,
I think at that point, you're then playing a long game. And I think then when you talk about longevity with Shedeur Sanders, sure, he may be a starter in the league, but I think he's then a middle of the pack type of starter where he gets lost in the mix, lost in the sauce a bit of the quarterback discussion, just because he just doesn't really offer you a whole lot. Like, when we talk about the profile of Shedeur Sanders and we talk about accuracy and touch and ball placement and all that stuff, that's the highlight, and it's not elite.
Correct.
We talk about the highlight because it's good. Like, that's the best part to his game.
Yeah.
So with no like elite calling card, with no elite like facets to his game, I struggle to throw him up any higher, even though it is Superflex.
So I also want to contextualize again. I don't want to use last year's draft as like the end all be all of like we should compare every rookie draft to last year's class. But I do want to make the note that most people are saying Cam Ward's talent is like probably quarterback 5, quarterback 6 in last year's class. You've got Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Jane Daniels for sure. A lot of people would throw JJ McCarthy at 4. Some people would say you could toss Bo Nix in there, but like the range we're looking at for Cam Ward was for like a guy like Bo Nix last year. Bo Nix was going as the 18th overall pick in rookie drafts last year. Like, we're talking middle of the second round in 12 main leagues. So I think the fact that we have Shedeur, first round of rookie drafts, I should say, I think that's like fine and generous. I don't think we like just need to push Shedeur up ahead of guys like Judkins, ahead of Hunter, ahead of Emeka Egbuka if you don't want to. I mean, I have him at 9 because I have enough questions on how to break up this tier of wide receivers, the Goldens, the Bukas, the Burns afterwards, where I'm like, I'm just going to take him over those guys if I have the need at quarterback. But again, we look at a guy like Bo Nix last year, who not a lot of people were excited about him. He's going middle of the second round. So the fact we, have Shedeur ranked at the end of the first round in rookie drafts, I think is like, I don't think is unreasonable. I don't think is like an outlandish thing to have either. So I just wanted to help contextualize that for people when they see, why is Shedeur not closer to the top? Well, there's a lot that goes into it, from a prospect evaluation and from also just literal rookie draft theory and draft need at the end of the day. Colson Loveland is the other one I want to touch on, because we have not talked about Colson Loveland a lot on this channel. I wish we would have talked about these tight ends more, because man, I love the tight ends in this class this year. But again, there's a case where you could convince me that after Travis Hunter, Colson Loveland is the next pick off the board. Do you two agree with that in any capacity? Is there a world where that's justifiable?
I think so, but my issue is just with tight ends. They just get so right. Remember, Dalton Kincaid felt so
lock him in at 8th pick. Yeah.
And then he went to Buffalo, and it was like, there is no
pants are off. We're dancing in the streets.
Exactly. Yep. And it just hasn't quite. I think there's just so many, types of those tight ends that it just feels right, that I think there just is more risk with the tight end position, unless you have a guy who you feel like is pretty bulletproof, like a Tyler Warren. And even, Tyler Warren, we talk about like TJ Hawkinson went really early, and it was a couple of years into Hawkinson's career before you finally felt like this paid off. So I just think there's inherently more risk with the tight end position. And that's why I can see a case for maybe him going a little earlier, but where we have him is where I'd feel comfortable taking him.
What about you, Ty? How high would you push Loveland? Or how wrong question. What's the highest you'd be willing to take Loveland?
Probably like at this 1-2 turn, I'll be honest, because I think the receivers that go in front of him, so the Emeka Ibuka, Matthew Golden, at least according to us, like how we would draft it, Luther Burden even as well, you have more faith in those guys because you believe that they are target getters. And I think Loveland, while having some really good movement skills despite his size, I don't think an NFL offense will try to make him a primary target in the offense until at least like 2-3 years down the road, like Cam was saying, like we traditionally see with tight ends. I think there is not necessarily some growth that needs to be had, but there's just a natural adjustment period that Colson Loveland will have to go through. So while I like the player a lot, I think he gets some unfair criticism when it comes to like the run blocking aspect of his game because of his size. I think Loveland he falls closer to like the median of where we find all of these tight end prospects than the upper echelon of the Brock Bowers and the Tyler Warrens of the world.
I know we said we weren't going to do this. Chargers, Colson Loveland, pick 22. I have a hard time fighting the temptation. 10th overall, 8th overall. Well, again, Genty, McMillan, Cam Ward, Hampton, Henderson, Warren, Judkins, Hunter, Loveland to the Chargers.
Yeah, it's either going to be really good or you're going to light a pick up, right? It's either. Again, this brings me back to Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid was perfect.
I know
he was a slot guy. He was going to get the receptions. He had Josh Allen, and then one thing changes, and it's like, and I don't know.
Trade him for a 2nd round pick. Jake Ferguson.
So I get it. I totally understand, but I don't know. It's just difficult for me to like get fully excited about any tight end prospects unless they're in that Tyler Warren range.
Here's what I'll say. I think Loveland, depending on the landing spot, can throw himself into that range of receiver where in the range of the receivers that we have, where you say, if you need the tight end, take the tight end.
Sure.
But very select spots and places, can you say that for Loveland? Like if Loveland were to fall into the 2nd round, or maybe I should say this, if he goes to the Rams, because the Rams have targeted forever.
We're dancing in the streets. Yeah.
Like I think Loveland can push himself ahead of those wide receivers.
Yeah. That's actually my dream.
I think that's secretly everyone's dream. But like I'm trying to think, if he goes to Seattle, I'm not sure I would be pushing Loveland ahead of some of the receivers then. So
no, I agree.
I think, again, specific landing spots will allow you to say like, yeah, I'll push Loveland a little higher. But not every landing spot is created equal.
Correct. Well, and let us know in the comments where you would ultimately think about taking Loveland in your rookie drafts. Currently across our board, he is 13th for all of us, which would be the first pick of the 2nd round in a 12-man league. Let us know where you're thinking about taking Loveland. If that is actually closer to pick 9, 10, 11, or if maybe even 13 is a little too rich for you still, given the context of tight ends. Let us know in the comments where you ultimately land on Loveland. Fellas, let's cover one more tier here before we go to break. And look, there's a lot of players in this tier, but I also recognize we have spent a lot of time on these players. So again, I feel like a broken record, but go back and watch our wide receiver comps video, go back and watch our running back comps video, go back and watch Ty and I's video that we did about 6 rookies that we love in this draft, because we covered a lot of guys in this tier on that video as well. Because the guys we're going to focus most of our time on here is Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe. This here for the audio listeners: Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Trey Harris, Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Sampson, Damian Martinez, Kyle Williams, and RJ Harvey. let's start with Jackson Dart. Another guy who I think could easily slide up into the B tier if he's drafted in the first round. Agree or disagree, Cameron?
I think for a lot of people, yeah, I am not convinced on Jackson Dart whatsoever. I think that's my biggest issue is I don't believe in him. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. So that's my reason. I don't think he slides in the first round either. I think that's a lot of smoke.
Really?
I don't.
Despite all the buzz.
Despite the buzz, I think
that son of a gun Mickey Loomis won't get him.
Because I think Shedor's starting to look like he's going to fall. I think teams are still going to have Sanders higher, and I think Jalen. I'm buying the smoke on Jalen Milroe being an end of the first round or being second. I think he's the third quarterback off the board.
I don't hate that. I really don't. I think there's a world where Jalen Milroe actually does slide in end of the first round. A team trades up ahead or trades back into the first round to actually take a Jalen Milroe instead of a Jackson Dart. We'll get to Jalen Milroe in a sec, but Ty, where do you land on Jackson Dart? Should he actually be end of a B tier guy? I think if you and I both agree, I think he will end up being a first round pick, but like I'm certainly open to being wrong on that. That's for sure. Cause I don't have a first round grade on Jackson Dart. I think it's just the nature of the NFL.
So maybe the best.
This is the best part about rookie season. His ties.
Need to make it a little sound bite.
Can we make that? Whenever I'm unsure on a take in the future, you're gonna have a bun on the board.
I think starting with Sanders, there is an argument to be made that you are taking them as, for us, like Sanders as high as the end of the first round, Jackson Dart potentially getting pushed into that B tier closer to the first round with the landing spot. We have to be honest. There's a lot of developing that needs to happen with those guys.
Sure.
I think we are getting way ahead of ourselves. And I say this as like I'm a GM of the NFL because I'm not. But like, I think Shedeur, I think Jackson Dart, I think Jalen Milroe. I think every quarterback outside of Cam Ward needs to be sat for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
I think you run the risk of them falling apart and busting if you throw them into the fire right away, no matter how good you think your situation is. Like, I think the best quarterback from this draft class, outside of Cam Ward, could be the guy that lands with the best offensive mind and sits and develops for a year. Like, if Jackson Dart, I'll be honest, because you've brought this up before, Lucas, in our group chat. If Jackson Dart lands at 26 to the Rams and they take him,
yeah,
I think there's a chance that Jackson Dart can be the best quarterback in this draft class because he gets to learn from Matthew Stafford and play in a Sean McVay offense.
Anybody who lands with Sean McVay is instantly going to get a bump if they do take a quarterback.
See, that's my thought process with Jalen Milroe, and then you said, that's not really going to happen. So
no, that is not what I said. What I said is that I think Jackson Dart is going to be the better fit for how he attacks the middle of the field. That's all I said. Look, Jalen Milroe could be some fun if Sean McVay wants to switch up his whole scheme to accommodate for Jalen Milroe. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. But all I said is that based on how Sean McVay has been running things, Jackson Dart, based on his skill set, is the better fit. Jackson Dart just might not have the clutch gene in him, and that's also real. I mean, there are some times where he gets multiple opportunities at the end of the game and he just chokes them away, turns them into turnover-worthy plays instead. I mean, it's not fun to watch. Yeah,
Lane Kiffin Merchant.
Okay, so that's the other thing about Jackson Dart, right? A lot of people are now bringing up Lane Kiffin Merchant. Which I don't know if that's also fair. Because look, Shedeur Sanders, they're running crap ton of RPO screens. What's not like halfway gimmicky about that? I understand it's different, but like, I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna do that to Jackson Dart, oh boy, there should be no talk of Shedeur Sanders going in the top 5 then, like at all.
Correct. I think we all share that one.
Hey, I'm just saying, if people are going to point that out, let's keep that same energy for Shedeur. I don't want to hear no takes about Shedeur being a top 10 quarterback then. Again, I don't have a first round grade on Shedeur, but just with the state of the NFL, these guys are going to get pushed into the first round because teams are going to take their chances. We've had people bring it up in our comments. The importance of getting your quarterback right for an NFL team, outweighs potentially taking that extra wide or that running back, that wide receiver, that defensive back that you may need. And I think the New Orleans Saints are such a great example of that, where they might just want to get their freaking quarterback right since Derek Carr is throwing a fit right now. I do hope his surgery goes well, but rumors are swirling that he's discontent there. I mean, they're potentially looking at fixing the quarterback position before taking care of DB, before taking care of the defensive line, before patching up the rest of their offensive line. And they're saying we might want to get the quarterback right. Well, but that's what I'm saying. So, why is Jackson Dart sitting in the C tier? If he goes first round, isn't there a world where he should just get pushed up to the B tier?
No. So okay. So I'll answer this because
I
also side with
Cam. I'm just getting us back to where we started.
See, good job hosting. That's what a good host does.
Yeah.
Get you right back.
Unlike our host on Tuesday. It was terrible.
That guy stinks.
I hear you. I get it. I get where you're getting it. Yeah.
Luke's is gone for one day. We got to deal with that camera guy, whoever the heck that was. Man,
unreal.
So with Jackson Dart, I think there is a lot of Lane Kiffin merchants kind of success in that offense. I struggle with anticipation. I struggle with touch from Jackson Dart. I thought I had question marks about Shedeur Sanders. I have those same question marks and maybe some more when it comes to Jackson Dart then.
I mean, it's fair. The footwork is sloppy at times. It's
just watch the Florida game in the last 2 minutes if you want to be out on Jackson Dart.
Yes, 100%. I think there's indecisiveness in his reads as well as how he progresses across the field. There's a lot of holes you could poke in Jackson Dart's game, right? So, again, not a first round grade from me, from Ty. Cam, I don't know what grade he actually landed on for
undrafted.
Undrafted. Undrafted. Mr. Irrelevant, Cameron says. Why don't we go ahead? Let's take a quick break here, and then we will be back to talk about Jalen Milroe afterwards. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. Alrighty, we are back. We are in the middle of breaking down our C tier and our final top 50 rookie rankings before the NFL draft next week. Just got done talking about Jackson Dart. Let's talk about Jalen Milroe now, who, look, about 2 weeks ago, we learned week and a half, 2 weeks ago, however long ago that was, we learned he got an invite to the NFL Combine. And that blew everybody's minds because nobody was talking about Jalen Milroe in the first round. Now, all of a sudden, it's confirmed. Jalen Milroe did accept an invite to the NFL draft. He's going to be there with 16 other players on draft night. Ooh. And there's we can create a few scenarios where Jalen Milroe actually goes at the end of the first round with his skill set. And now when I bring this example up, I'm not comparing Jalen Milroe to Anthony Richardson or comparing Jalen Milroe. No, I'm not. to Lamar Jackson, because those are the Lamar Jackson one is a stupid comp to make, but he should be a running back, should be a tight end, should be a running back. Lamar the running back. Now Ravens will take him into the first round. He'll play quarterback for us. MVP winner now, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying Jalen Milroe's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but couldn't we see a world where, despite all the doubts and questions we have about Jalen Milroe, with his ability, with his character, the academic Heisman winner, I don't entirely know what that meant. I wasn't a perfect student in college myself, but
what?
Extreme, you two both know that. You went to college with me. Extremely likable guy, mobile on the ground. I think there's enough arm talent there. There's a lot to improve upon. Don't get me wrong. There's enough arm talent there where, you know what? If a team comes up and gets him, is there a world where maybe we should be taking a shot on him ahead of Trey Harris? in rookie drafts ahead of Jaden Higgins, maybe? Is there a world? That's all I'm asking. I'm only asking if there's a world based on what we know about Jalen Milroe going into the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is a world. I don't love that you brought up Anthony Richardson because he probably should be playing running back at this point for the Indianapolis Colts. But
I'm just Anthony Richardson went 4th overall. That was more so the point I was trying to make of like, hey, look, guy with great rushing ability. I mean, Anthony Richardson had a crap ton of like developmental potential that just clearly isn't working out. But continue on. That's the only reason why I brought his name up.
Yeah, I think obviously he's got a ton of potential. And I think that's the reason I personally have Milroe ahead of Jackson Dart when I look at this, because I don't think the upside for Jackson Dart.
I just got you. Saw where you had Jalen Milroe.
I totally missed that.
Read it off, Ty.
Wow. Jalen Milroe at 18 for Cam and Jackson Dart at 24.
Yeah. And because I'm looking at Jackson Dart and I'm seeing somewhere between maybe he could be Derek Carr or he's probably going to be like Kenny Pickett versus Jalen Milroe. Or I'm looking at could be Anthony Richardson or could be, I was going to say Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's going to be Jalen Hurts, but
third round quarterback
from a fantasy perspective though, right? It is a little bit more like a lottery ticket taking Jalen Milroe. Whereas I just think Jackson Dart, you're just hoping you get a halfway decent quarterback out of it. So that's why I have Milroe higher. I think, teams are willing to take a chance just on that kind of upside from what they've seen. Obviously, you're like Ty said, you're really hoping he goes to a team who sticks to the plan of we're going to give him a year, maybe even 2 years to sit. So you have to know that when you're taking that pick and develop, and then as long as he can develop into a competent passer, we know that the rushing upside's there.
What about you, Ty? I want you to weigh in here on what you've kind of been seeing and breaking down on Jalen Milroe's film and how you want to see that translate to the league.
So I think we've talked about this before. If a team takes Jalen Milroe, they are committing to building an offense around Jalen Milroe. You cannot plug and play him anywhere because that's not what his skill set is. For me, the reason why I have Jalen Milroe at 24 and not Jackson Dart is because I value pocket awareness / presence. I value accuracy and I value decision making. And to me, Jalen Milroe, now I don't want to say this as like a total criticism, but he plays a little too conservative where he would rather hold on to the ball and then potentially try to escape than try to make a throw downfield. And now you could say that you could look on the other side of the coin and say like, well, do you want him to turn the ball over all the time? And it's like, of course not. But I think Jalen Milroe is so raw at this point as a talent that he's still learning the quarterback position in some ways and how to be a quarterback. We love the athleticism. We love the speed, but you do need to play quarterback. That's the criticism with Anthony Richardson right now. Lamar Jackson should have been MVP. That's another discussion for another time, but it's because he has figured out how to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. That was with the help of the offense and with developing and great offensive minds. Jalen Milroe, I don't think can play quarterback great at this moment. That's why I've got him ranked so low, because I don't think it translates. I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to be like that franchise quarterback. And if he does get that opportunity, I'm still hedging my bets that it doesn't pan out because I think the NFL is a different beast when it comes to playing quarterback.
And that's like something where we have to see where does he land, what team is going to develop him. If he lands with the Browns, I definitely have some hope that Kevin Stefanski can have some fun scheming up Jalen Milroe and creating an offense around Jalen Milroe and his mobility against Lamar Jackson in the same division. But I think you're right, Ty. I think there's elements of his game where it's like, man, you look at his stats versus SEC play this year, only 5 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. He's got a little bit of a laser beam. almost looks like every throw is kind of like has like a laser beam trajectory on it. Whereas like I don't think he puts enough loft under his deep ball. We're nitpicking, right? And I don't want to sit on Jalen Milroe for too long here, but again, this is a world where if he goes to the right landing spot, he absolutely could be going higher. But there's so many question marks around Jalen Milroe potentially that he probably belongs behind the Higgins, behind the Jalen Noel, behind. You can make an argument for Trey Harris, Cam Scadaboo. I think he's behind Cam Scadaboo, but I digress. We should keep it moving here because we're like 40 minutes into this, and we still got half the tiers to cover. Before we move on, though, Cameron, you're the only one who hasn't really chimed in on the running backs in this tier, and Ty and I have talked about this interesting grouping of Dylan Sampson, Damian Martinez, and RJ Harvey, where Ty leans Dylan Sampson, I lean Damian Martinez, and that's just because I'm like probably uber stupid high on Damian Martinez. Do you have a preference out of the Sampson, Martinez, and Harvey trio?
I, unfortunately for you, Lucas, am Sampson and Harvey, and then Martinez. I do have them all decently close. Obviously, draft capital is going to mean quite a bit for them.
Oh, totally.
I think this is the tier, especially for running backs, where draft capital is going to mean quite a bit, right? We're talking like when you talk about Noel, Higgins, and Harris, we're expecting those guys to be high second round picks, right? I mean, obviously, if something crazy happens and we're seeing them, middle end of the third, then we might have to have that conversation. But the rest, I mean, even Scadaboo, it's where do they actually end up falling in the draft? If they're not day two guys, then all of a sudden we kind of enter a little bit of scary hours. So I think I go Sampson, Harvey, Martinez is the order that I have those three in.
Sure, and they're all super close in my rankings. They're all within like 5 rankings of each other. Yep. So,
I think I'm back to back in my rankings.
Sure, yeah. So I have no problem with how people want to rank them. I was just curious your thoughts since Ty and I had already kind of weighed in the players the rookies that we love show that we did. Gosh, that would have been last week. Let's keep it moving to the D tier. In this tier, gosh, another wide range of players. But we're going to try and hone it down. Mason Taylor, Jack Besh, Elijah Arroyo, Devin Neal, Elick Aomanor, Bashal Tootin, DJ Giddens, Jalen Royals, and Tyler Shuck wraps out the D tier. Ty, give me I want to focus on the trio of Devin Neal, Bashal Tootin, and DJ Giddens in this tier, but give me the quick overview on Elijah Arroyo because most people are going to look and say if they're box score hunting, 3 for 35 for 590 and 7 this season, and you're talking about him in the D tier. Are we sure about that? So go give me the overview on Elijah Arroyo quick before we talk those running backs, just because we haven't spent time on these tight ends outside of Mason Taylor, who I absolutely love.
I feel like Arroyo, it's not a perfect comp by any means, but like Arroyo is off-brand Colson Loveland because I don't think he's the greatest run blocker. I think he's more his strength is in his movement skills and his ability to get open across parts of the field where you don't expect a tight end to be open, because I think he is kind of that bigger slot kind of receiver type of tight end. I think according to PFF, he was top 10 in deep catches and deep yards this year. So he's most definitely like the vertical route guy. The only issue that you run into is he's not great in contested catches. And I just don't, I think he is going to find himself more as a complement to a tight end one. Like you could pair him up with like TJ Hawkinson if you really wanted to, kind of like tight end number 2. Arroyo, he got some buzz to be like some people have him as their tight end 3, and they think that he can develop into a guy. I don't see Not it personally. There's a nice little player. There's a guy that can give you maybe 25 catches on the year, but there's not much outside of that.
Well, I was going to say, we're going to talk about another tight end coming up here, where Elijah Arroyo only had 37% of the yards that Harold Fannin did this year. That's just, I couldn't believe that when Harold Fannin, 1,555 yards to Elijah Arroyo's 590. I mean, nearly 1,000 yards more. than Elijah Arroyo this season. We'll talk about Harold Fannin in a bit, but again, I want to focus on the running backs here. We've already talked about Jack Bash as a guy that I really like. I believe Elik Aomanor made your other episode. The players were incredibly low on, or rookies were incredibly low on in the draft. Ty is not a fan of Aomanor, but let's talk about these running backs: Devin Neal, Bashal Tootin, DJ Giddens. I think a lot of people would be tempted to push Devin Neal up closer to the Samson. Wow, they're putting him ahead of Martinez. I'm just irrationally high on Martinez, and Ty is too. So that's really driving the ship
because
there.
We know ball.
Because I don't know what other film people are watching. I just don't. I don't know what film they got that I didn't. Apparently, I'm missing something. But Devin Neal, Bashal Tootin, DJ Giddens. How are you guys ranking them? In what order?
I'm gonna give this one to Ty.
Go for it, Ty. You can start.
I go Devin Neal, DJ Giddens, and Bashal Tootin.
Okay.
Oh, I take it back.
You take it back. You wanted to start?
I don't want to give it to Ty anymore. I go Bashal Tootin, DJ Giddens, Devin Neal.
Oh.
Here's all that I'll say. I like Bashal Tootin. I like the speed that he's got.
Yes. Home run hitter.
I can't trust the fumbling issues. I can't trust that it's going to get better. I can't trust that it's going to get solved, just going into the league. No matter how good you may be in an outside zone scheme, because that's the only scheme that people talk about him playing in.
Yes.
I don't care how good you may be. If you fumble the ball, you're just not going to get on the field. And I think he struggles with it too much.
Which, and again, I think if you're really good at, this is the fascinating thing, where it's like Devin Neal and Bashal Tootin are like the inverse of one another, right? Where it's like Devin Neal,
1000%.
Like Devin Neal is like he's good and technical at many things, but he's not like, you can't point to one thing and you're like, oh man, you have to watch this part of his game. It's most, look, he's good between the tackles, he's got nice footwork, he's got good patience, but it's all like good. Bashal Tootin, it's like, get him on the outside, let him hit a home run, and he's like absolutely gone. And there's not much more technicality to his game other than that. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of people who actually have Bashal Tootin closer to like the running back 14, 15 in their rankings.
I get it.
Yeah, no, right. And I don't fault him because it's like he's so one dimensional. It's the speed, and if he doesn't get to the next level, like what that could. I said this when we talked about the players we loved, right? Where it's like speed only gets you so far. If it doesn't get you to the second level, then what's the point? If you're not breakaway speed only counts when you're at the second level. So I'm with you, Ty, that like I'm cooling down on Bashal Tootin. I still have him ahead of DJ Giddens, but it's literally 30 and 31. And I don't care which way you have him. I really don't. Because there's things in Giddens' game that I definitely like more than the Tootins, but there is something, I think, to Cameron's point as well, of like, but if Tootin hits a home run, it's a grand slam. And you still have Devin Neal at the top of your list, Ty?
I do. I'll be honest. I've got a 4th round grade on Devin Neal because I feel the same way. The guy doesn't do a lot wrong. That's the
best way of putting it. He doesn't do a lot wrong. That's about it, though.
It's just very meh.
Yeah.
So he can be a nice number 2 guy. I think he can find himself on the field a bit in the league, because I did think that like his receiving game as a whole, from hands to pass blocking, all that stuff was good as well. But when you're talking about like the calling card, the versatility, the ability to do everything, Devin Neal just, again, is just meh.
So Josh Norris, of NFL Draft with Josh and Hayden, brought up Devin Singletary as a comp for Devin Neal. And it's like, yeah. I've never been thrilled about Devin Singletary, though. So it's like, I just like there's something to be said about he doesn't do a lot wrong, and he'll play a role on an NFL team. I just don't think that role on that NFL team will ever amount to a whole lot. That's all it is. Versus Tootin, I'm not when I say Devon Achane, there's no world in which I'm comparing him to Devon Achane. But Devon Achane, again, we thought small, fast, home run hitter, and now you said it. It exists. It's out there. It's out there.
If he hits now, I'm gonna clip this. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Hey, you can clip that. It just make me look really smart. Then that's fine. Just cut out the part where I said I am absolutely not comping them. But again, like we've seen worlds where it's like relegated to a home run hitter, but it actually ends up being so right. Like Lanning's ought to play a lot in this, but we have to keep it moving. We only have so much time left on the clock. E tier. This is a smaller tier. We'll try and keep this one a little bit shorter. This is Savion Williams, Harold Fannin Jr., Isaiah Bond, Trevor Etienne, and LaQuinta Allen to wrap out the tier. Savion Williams, people are screaming Cordero Patterson. I don't love this for Savion Williams. I just look at the rest of the wide receivers, and I'm like, he's a wild card, and I might just I'm okay betting on a wild card, with a late third, early fourth round pick in my rookie drafts. If there's nobody I love on the board. Harold Fannin Jr., though, I want to spend a minute on him because there's a world where look, Ty, I know you're. So here, I'll just hand it to you because I know. Give me your 60 seconds on Harold Fannin. And let me read the stats before you do because I feel like that's going to set you up. Let me read his box score stats because again, when I talked about nutty production, when we talked about the players we love, it's stupid. 117 receptions this past year for 1,555 yards and 10 touchdowns. He was averaging nearly 120 receiving yards per game. It's stupid stuff when you turn on the film too. I mean, it looks phenomenal, but
he's a fullback.
okay, Brett Coleman.
No, I have been thinking it all along. Brett was copying me. I'm kidding. I will sum it up in like 10 seconds. No offense is going to design their entire passing offense for Harold Fannin.
Yeah,
that's just not going to happen with his size. I think you also need to talk about competition and the fact that, like, yeah, you are able to dominate, but as a tight end, it's not exactly a great like translator to success that you dominated at a lower competition level. I mean, like we're going up against like Kent State and Central Michigan and Ball State and Miami, Ohio. Like I would expect you to dominate. Like if you're going to go in the draft, I expect you to dominate. Mm-hmm. So again, Harold Fannin, no offense is going to design stuff for him like Bowling Green did. He can be a nice number 2 guy. Not going to say that's out of the realm of possibility, but to expect him to like eventually win a tight end 1 spot, to eventually be the after the catch threat that he was in college, I just don't see that happening.
Which we'll put a ball on it there because we could spend so much time on Harold Fannin debating him, but I think that is like the big reason why he's a tier below like Elijah Arroyo is it's going to take an NFL offense like trying to create an offensive scheme for him at the tight end position when I think there's something. Look, I'm not saying I agree that Harold Fannin is just a fullback, but I think there's something to the statement of, yeah, he's a fullback just based on the nature of his build and how he plays as well. Trevor Etienne and LaQuinta Allen are 2 guys we haven't talked about. We didn't talk about them in any of our running back videos. We didn't talk about them in players we love. Trevor Etienne's an interesting one. Again, he's a guy where I think he does like you watch his film and it's nothing exciting, but you're just like, he does enough right. And sometimes I just rather would take that than, people love to talk about like Jaden Blue. And I'm just like, I would just rather take the guy who I can see does a lot right versus Jaden Blue who can't hold on to the football. And then LaQuinta Allen is the last guy. And I just love his pass catching chops. He's great in pass pro. This past season at Syracuse caught 64 passes, for 521 yards, caught 4 touchdowns through the air as well. 16 rushing touchdowns is nothing to gawk at, but a little bit up and down and a little bit of a stand-up running style, which I don't think he's ever going to get any early down work in the NFL. But what I do know in rookie drafts is I'm always drawn to the guys who have pass catching upside. Rashad White coming out, sure, out of Arizona State, better prospect, I would say for sure. But like he was a guy I was immediately drawn to because you know what, if I'm playing in a PPR league, if they're going to be out on the field on passing field downs, that's the opportunity to get some valuable fantasy points at the running back position in the receiving game. Ty, I know you literally just finished up your film study on him. Anything you want to add on to LaQuint Allen there? Because that's where I land, and I personally would be willing to take a shot on him, like ahead of all the guys in this tier, just because of his pass catching game chops, and I think he can stay out on the field on third downs with his pass pro ability.
Yeah, I think this is purely just looking at like where he's likely going to go in your rookie drafts. Like he's going to be like in the fourth round, early fourth round, probably. And it's just saying I'm going to take the shot on the guy that has the best chance of getting on the field because the facets of the game that he's strong in translate to fantasy points. So a guy like Trevor Etienne, probably going to be a little more difficult, even though there are things to his game that like he may be able to carve himself out a role. I think with LaQuint Allen, I
think I've said it 4 different ways so far. I keep
like
trying to land on one and then it comes out a different way. I'm like,
I think Allen is able to hit the ground faster than some of the other running backs we'll talk about.
Sure, which I would agree with that statement. We'll keep it moving. Let's move to the F tier. Xavier Restrepo, who has taken a tumble down rookie draft board. Ty's giggling. He's like, just put the perception reception tree on the screen.
He just wants the tweet.
That's all he
wants.
Put it all up there at this point. Just put it all up there.
Can we I want the screen. It doesn't even the jump cut doesn't even have to come to me. Can it just sit on Ty and we just put up the Kurt Benkert tweet and the perception chart? Can we just do that? Look, we're getting some deeper wide receivers in this class so far here as well. Torrey Horton, Pat Bryant, out of the Fighting Illini, Ollie Gordon II, Brashard Smith, Woody Marks, Jarquez Hunter, and Taj Brooks getting deep and nasty with the running backs as well. Torrey Horton and Pat Bryant are two names that I think are starting to creep up a little bit. They're definitely more of like, they're going to be day 3 guys for sure. Guys who might be able to play a serviceable role on an offense. Out of those two, Ty, do you have a preference between Torrey Horton or Cam's guy, Torrey Hunter, or Pat Bryant out of Illinois?
I lean towards Torrey Horton slightly over Pat Bryant, just because I think I shouldn't say I've seen more of Torrey Horton, but I trust his game more than Pat Bryant. I trust Torrey's hands. I trust the little nuances to his game that you wouldn't really expect to see from a guy of his size. So again, that's my leaning. I don't have anything against Pat Bryant. Torrey Horton's just more my flavor. That's all.
Sure. Right. Well, and which is fair. Cause I would say that Pat Bryant is probably more of my flavor, in terms of creating leverage out of his release. I think he's really clever in that regard. Good body control, knows how to stack corners as well. There's enough in Pat Bryant's game where I'm like, you can play a valuable wide receiver 3 role on an offense in the NFL. I don't know if he'll get out on the field right away, but there's enough to his game where I'm willing to take a shot on him in 4th round of my rookie draft just to see what comes of it. And if he does land in a really good spot, that's only icing on the cake as well. 4 interesting running backs to wrap out this year. We've talked about Ollie Gordon and our disdain for him in rookie drafts this year. Brashard Smith, Woody Marks, Jarquez Hunter, and Taj Brooks. Do you two have a preference out of those 4? Do you have one where you're like, I actually don't mind him if I got to pick one out of these 4?
I think we're smart now. So my issue is when we get down this low, it's just like, what's the difference?
Well, yeah, right.
Well, before the draft, I'm like, why am I choosing when I have no idea what draft capital is? No idea. And that's just where I'm landed at this point. I'll let Ty, because Ty is deep dove on like the top 7,000 rookies in the NFL, so I'll let him talk about this.
And that's fair.
Thanks for trying to include me on this question.
Some of this majority of this will come down to draft capital and the role they play on these teams. I just didn't know if you had a specific flavor where you're like, you know what, I've actually been watching a little bit of this guy. I also don't blame you if you haven't gotten to a Taj Brooks or a Jarquez Hunter. Do you have a flavor out of these guys, Ty?
So, in terms of the prospect and like whose film I enjoyed watching more, I like Jarquez Hunter's film more than the other 3 guys. But in terms of fantasy, my preference is Brashard Smith because I think it's a similar skill set to LaQuint Allen. And I think he offers just a little bit more in the run game than LaQuint Allen. Like, I'll be completely honest. I've got Brashard Smith graded higher than LaQuint Allen. But again, I think LaQuint Allen's receiving chops are better. And that's where I have him ranked ahead in fantasy then, because again, I think those skill sets hit the ground running quicker.
Sure. Well, and so as you can probably guess, my flavor is Woody Marks. Receiving game chops. He's got enough there where I think he can make that happen. Got some explosive home run play to him as well. I mean, he as soon as the run lane is there, it is pedal to the metal. We are 0 to 70 just like that. So I do like me a little bit of Woody Marks. He's the guy I would probably prefer out of this tier. But let's wrap it up with the F- tier because having a G tier just sounds weird. So it's the F- tier instead. This is our boy Tiny Tez Johnson, Ty Felton, Kyle McCord, and Jordan James, who surprisingly Lance Zierlein. I'm going to fact check myself on this. Lance Zierlein, I'm pretty sure, has Jordan James as a top 7 graded running back in this class. Let me confirm that. Jordan James, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, top 10 grade in this class for Lance Zierlein.
Dane Brugler has Jordan James as his running back 7.
Fascinating. Okay, so is there something? Look, you could take Jordan James ahead of Brashard Smith, Woody Marks, all those guys for all I care. Trevor Etienne, LaQuintas, sure. At some point, draft capital is going to play into this. Landing spot's going to play into this, right? You could check up a lot of those guys in any order that you want. I mean, but that's significant though. Jordan James has top 10 for both Zierlein and Dane Brugler, guys who are highly respected in the industry. Where'd you land on him?
Not that high.
Oh, that was just fine. I didn't either, but
yeah, I'll be honest, and I want you to hear the full explanation that I'm about to say, because what I'm about to lead off with will make you go, what? Jordan James running to the outside. He runs like Dalvin Cook. I'm going to be honest. There is some Dalvin Cook to the outside run game for him. The problem is that when you ask him to go between the tackles, he is just like any other running back. So I think, yes, landing spot is dependent on this, but I'm hedging my bets that Jordan James doesn't exactly find the best opportunity for him. And that's why then he's towards the bottom of our rankings here, because everyone else has something to their game, and Jordan James may not just get the opportunity that the others will get.
Cameron, here's a question that you can answer. Is Jordan James this year's Bucky Irving?
No, but Ty Felton is this year's Troy Franklin. That's my comp for you.
Oh, Ty Felton. Hey, look, fun little player, explosive with the ball in his hands, but he's also pretty small. He's kind of like our guy Tiny Tez.
Not quite tiny. Nobody's Tiny Tez. Only Tiny Tez. Tiny Tez.
Nobody is Tiny Tez.
It's like having Jose Altuve out there.
But
now we're getting into baseball.
40 pounds lighter.
Brutal.
Well, there you have it. Top 50 rookie rankings in Superflex leagues. Let us know ultimately your thoughts on all of this in the comments, whether you think we're like just totally crazy about players or if there's a player we didn't cover that you have a take on. Let us know in the comments. Again, we tried to breeze over some of these players because we've covered actually a vast majority of them across a lot of our different videos this offseason. So if you want alerts when our newest content comes out, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell as well so you know when it comes out. And we're live, as I mentioned, for the entire first round of the NFL draft. It is going to be a fun, awesome watch party. We're going to be engaging with all of your questions. We're going to be laughing, reacting to every pick. You can roast us if our guesses. We're going to go head to head in a little mock draft battle. If our mock drafts are just way off, you can totally clown us in the comments. But come hang out with us on draft night. We're looking forward to spending some time with you all as a community and watching the draft together. If you want to follow our other socials as well, FFL is on Twitter, the FFL is on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. You can follow our personals as well. I am at Lucas Wenzel on X, Camlaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler_Plath for Ty. We're back next week, NFL Draft Week. So, like every other football channel, you get to see us go head to head in a mock draft. We're each going to claim a multitude of teams, each claim 10 to 11 teams in the NFL draft. We're going to go ahead and make picks for them. We're going to do a final NFL mock draft before Thursday when we, once again, are live for the entire first round of the NFL draft. So again, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when our newest content is up. We'll see you all next week for one of the best weeks of the entire year, NFL draft week. Deuces.
Deuces.